Welcome to the Owning Your Sexual Self podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Main, awesome wife and dog mom for life. I'm a sex therapist turned sex coach, and I run a successful business selling relationship enhancement products. I absolutely love talking about all things sex. So you can expect this podcast to explore all things related to women's sexual health because that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you discover and embrace what brings you pleasure so that you can own your sexual self. If that sounds good to you, then keep listening and let's fucking do this. Hello. Welcome back to the you already know, Owning Your Sexual Self podcast. Yes. All right. Happy Monday, Tuesday, whatever day it is that you're listening to this. I am pumped to share with you one of my therapy insiders, I guess is what I could consider this. But you saw the title of this episode. It is all about Sensate Focus. Sensate Focus 101, kind of a breakdown of exactly what this is, where it came from, how to do it, and how it can really make a difference in your relationship. So if you don't already know, I have a masterclass coming up, y'all. A masterclass. Yes. Head over to my website, rachelmain.com, and you will see under Work With Me, you're going to see the link to my masterclass that is coming up on September 20th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You'll be able to register for the masterclass so that way you get the link to the Zoom. Even if you're unable to make it in real time, the recording will go out to all of those that register. And it's going to be for the very, very small price of $19. Yes, $19. This masterclass that I'm doing on the 20th is all about how to figure out what exactly it is that you want in the bedroom. That's something that I've been hearing from people so often. They're like, Rachel, I know that I want something more in the bedroom, but I just don't know what that more is. I don't know what my desires are. I don't know what brings me pleasure. And that's exactly what this masterclass is gonna cover for you. We're gonna dive deep into one of my favorite tools called the Want, Will, Won't list. And this is something that is designed for you to get to know yourself better, for your partner, if you're in a partnership, for them to get to know themselves better, and then for you two to come together as a couple and really, really kind of put together these epic, like literally fucking epic date nights. It's something that Danny and I have done a couple times together, and it's been phenomenal. So this is kind of the more in-depth version of what Danny and I have sat down and done before. So head over again to rachelmain.com, check out the Work With Me tab, and you're going to see all the information for the masterclass right there. Again, it is for the very small price of $19. $19 can unlock your desires, your wants, your needs, your wills, your won'ts, all the things in between. So definitely head over and check that out. All right, but today we are talking Sensate Focus, which is another one of my favorite things. This is something that I would often use in my therapy practice when I was working with couples. And if you've never heard of Sensate Focus before, this is actually something that was developed by Masters and Johnson as a way, again, to help couples learn more about themselves and each other, and a way to move towards a more fulfilling, intimate relationship. So the aim of this practice, known as Sensate Focus, is really aimed to build trust and intimacy within your relationship. And so it's helping you both give and receive pleasure. And it emphasizes really, the emphasis is around positive emotions, the physical feelings and responses, while reducing any sort of negative reactions that may come up. This really can help couples, overcome any fear or failure that they may have had existing previously in their life or in their relationship, and really help them to build a more satisfying sexual relationship that both partners feel that they're able to ask for what they want, and that they're able to, again, give and receive that pleasure. And it's not a race to an end. It's not this thing that you're gonna sit down and get done quickly. It really is this continuous reinforcement, and it's really needed to overcome these negative reactions to intimacy. So typically, how long you decide that you're going to spend on this practice is really up to you. Typically, sessions, what I've found is that they usually last between, let's say, 20 minutes up to an hour, and you can do them 2 to 3 times a week. You can spread it over the course of 6 or more weeks. Really, it's up to you. You know, you and your partner, your couple, you have your own unique DNA. And so when you're thinking about maybe trying to implement this into your relationship, really make sure that you're communicating with your partner about what feels good for the both of you. But again, I think if you go at this as a way that, again, you're telling your partner, hey, I listened to this podcast and she was talking about this way that the both of us can really learn to better give and receive pleasure and to reduce any negative reactions that we might have around our intimacy right now. You know, if my partner says that to me, or if I say that to my partner, I would hope that they would be open and willing to receive that information. And you know, like anything that we want to go on a journey with our partner together, when you can bring up these things in a way that, hey, this is something that excites me, this is something that I want to experience with you because it excites me, that's really enticing, that's really powerful, that's a powerful thing that can happen within your relationships. So again, it is important to go at your own pace, you know, taking your time and only moving on to the different phases of Sensate Focus when you are both feeling ready. And it's also really important that you commit to the time that you're going to do this practice regularly. So if you sit down and you decide that, okay, we're going to implement this 2 times a week, what days and times in that week do you both have room in your calendar that you can make sure that you set that on the calendar? You're making it a priority in your relationship. So if it's Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. after the kids go to bed, or after, you know, your show is over, after you're done with work for the day, maybe it's Saturday morning, or maybe it's Sunday morning. You know, again, whatever works for your couple. Making sure that you're both on the same page. Again, making sure that you're both making this a priority for your relationship. And commitment and planning to this are the two most important things when you're engaging in the Sensate Focus practice. Okay. So there are kind of some ground rules here. Some of them I've already sort of went over, but again, you want to choose a time and a place that is acceptable for both of you, somewhere where you will not be disturbed. You want to make sure that your surroundings are as pleasant as possible. So really choose some music and lighting and aromas that are really suitable for you. Turn off your phone. Okay. Turn off the phone, turn off the TVs, turn off all the gadgets that are around you, if necessary, and then definitely lock the door, giving yourself that sense of safety, that privacy, and just that sense of detaching from the outside world, if you will. All right. Then essentially what you're going to be doing is you're going to take turns giving and receiving touch, allowing equal amount of time for both of you. So the goal here again is that enjoyment and pleasure, enjoying the journey rather than aiming towards any specific destination. When I say specific destination, I'm speaking specifically about orgasm, because this is not something that you are going to engage in your partner with and you want to do, you know, 2 seconds of touching and then boom, you've reached orgasm. Or you've done 2 seconds of touching and boom, here I am now stroking your penis, right? 2 seconds of touching and now you're going down on me. Now we're kissing. That's not what this practice is designed to do. This is really, really, really designed for you to each explore each other's bodies and figure out those non-genital related erogenous zones. And again, what sort of touch, what pressures, what sensations feel good for each of you. Again, both giving and receiving. So really you can take however long as you want, as I said earlier, over each of these phases. And often the slower that you take it, the more that you're going to get out of this. You know, I've sent a couples home with this exercise before when I was working in the private practice, and they would come back to their session next week and they'd be like, okay, Rachel, we're done. We're done with Sensate Focus. No, 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 no. That's the automatic indicator that I know that they rushed through it. Ideally, you know, there was couples that I was working with that it would take them months, or it got to take them months to even get through the first 1 and 2 phases. So really making sure that this is a tool for you and your couple to use to, again, figure out the pleasures, enjoy that time together. All right. And take your time with it. Take your time with it. Please, please, please take your time with it. All right. And so, again, you're only going to move from one stage to the next when both partners agree. Okay. Now, let me just kind of not recap, but let me just kind of give you an overview of what each of the phases are, and then I'll go into the instructions, because I've mentioned phases a few times now, and I'm like, I kind of want you guys to know what each of the phases are, all right? So phase 1 is non-genital sensate focus. All right, non-genital sensate focus. Phase 2 is genital sensate focus. Phase 3 is penetrative sensate focus. And I made a mistake earlier. I was thinking, I said 4 phases, I meant to say 3. So forgive me for that mistake. But there are 3 phases. So non-genital sensate focus, genital sensate focus, and penetrative sensate focus. So essentially your first phase again is very non-sexual touching. Your second phase ideally is sexual touching, however, no penetration. And then your third and final phase is going to be penetrative sensate focus. All right, so here is the instructions. When it's your turn to touch, you want to take plenty of time to explore the other person's body. Okay, you want to experiment with different sort of sensations, different types of touch, different textures, different pressures. Again, taking pleasure in experience the texture, experiencing your form and the temperature of the other person's body. Okay, so you're really indulging. You're really indulging when you're, again, the person that's touching. You're really indulging in the enjoyment of what it feels like to be able to provide that person pleasure and be able to figure out what provides that person pleasure. Okay. You want to try to discover the degrees of pressure and the types of touch that your partner finds most appealing by encouraging them to give you feedback, by placing your hand under their hand so that they can show you what they want. Okay, so if you want to allow them to kind of guide you where it feels good to them, if you want to create some sort of verbalized system, if you want to create sort of a red light, green light sort of system that is going to indicate to each other what touches do feel good, that can work as well. And then when it is your turn to be touched, make sure that you are also letting the other person know what it is that you like and what you don't like. So you can tell your partner how you feel. You can make those appreciative noises or moans and things like that, or you can move their hand where it is, again, that you want to be touched. You really want to avoid, and you've heard me talk about this before, but you really want to avoid that negative sort of language. So kind of avoid saying the don'ts or not this type of language. It can feel discouraging. You want to use those more encouraging phrases like it feels better when you ... I really like when you ... Those sorts of things. Okay. And you may also find that after you're done with your Sensate Focus practice, I've had couples where they've done their practice, they've given each other each, 10 minutes to explore each other's bodies, so a total of 20 minutes for the exercise. And then afterwards, they've kind of laid there and talked about their experience afterwards. They figured they wanted to do their recap then. Maybe they didn't want to use so many verbal interactions during the actual exercise itself because they wanted to, again, be able to unplug and really be mindful about the touches and the pleasures that they were experiencing. Okay, so you can do it that way too. So recap again, saying, I really liked it when you did this. I loved when this happened. I really enjoyed when you touched here or whatnot. Okay. And if there is something that you would like to try, okay, if there's something that you would like to try, don't be afraid to suggest that. Don't be afraid to say, I wonder what it would feel like for me if you touched here, right? I wonder what it would feel like for you if I touched here. Okay? So really working with each other to, again, figure out what those enjoyable things are. All right, so let's dive into this. I'm super excited. Like I said, this is one of my go-to things when I was working in the therapy practice. And I just love to see those light bulb moments for people when they're like Sensate Focus, like, what is that? I'm like, oh yeah, get ready. Because like, let's dive into phase one here, non-genital sensate focus. Okay. The first stage, this is the first stage, and this really, really, really puts the emphasis on the sensuality side of this. So the simple enjoyment of physical touch rather than sexuality or the pursuit of orgasm. So again, this is very non-sexual touching. So this phase focuses on touch and mutual exploration, free from any concern that it's going to lead to sex. That's the other thing I forgot to mention. When you're in phase one, both partners know that sex essentially is off of the table. Orgasm essentially is off of the table during this practice. Okay? So it is important that you do try to abstain from any sort of form of sexual activity during this stage, even if you become very, very aroused. Not to touch one another's genitals or breasts, attempt to have intercourse, oral sex, or any sort of type of sexual activities. So you do attempt to have or give an orgasm, but abstaining from sexual activity removes any pressure on either partner, to get an erection, to become aroused, or to perform in any other way. It also helps break any established patterns, patterns of previous behavior that may feel very routine or may even have become boring in your relationship. So I want you to think about this phase one real quick. When's the last time that you engaged in that non-genital sensate focus? So maybe this was massage, all right? So obviously you're avoiding touching those obvious erogenous zones like breasts, nipples, vulva, clitoris, vagina, penis, testicles. You want to avoid those. And while it's preferred that you are naked, this is where I was like, okay, there is an actual phase four. I knew when I said four, I was like, wait, why three, four? Okay, there is technically a pre-phase. If you wanted to do the non-genital sensate focus touching clothed, that is basically a pre-phase to phase one. Okay, so you can do phase one either clothed or naked. You can wear underwear, you can wear relaxed clothes if that feels better. But really, really hone in and think about where you and your couple are. If you're someone, let's say, if you're someone that comes from a trauma background and you're someone that just doesn't enjoy physical touch, and this is a very, very, very raw and unforeign territory to you, I may suggest for you to start this exercise clothed. All right, or maybe just bra and underwear or boxers or briefs or whatever it is that your person wears. Okay, maybe they have a t-shirt on, anything like that. So there is sort of that pre-phase. So again, it is preferred that you do start phase one naked, but again, doing what's best and most comfortable for both of you, and again, something that you're both able to agree on. So for phase one, you might want to find a book or a DVD about massage that's useful, and you can start to explore these different techniques. Again, avoiding those obvious erogenous zones, and then only moving from one state to the next once you both feel ready. Sexual intercourse, oral sex, and orgasm are not permitted during this phase. This is basically the one and only time that I'm going to tell you, like, to not have sex. Okay? Now, if it happens, that's okay. I don't want there to be any shame or guilt around that if that happens, because I have had couples come back where one partner did actually achieve an orgasm from phase one. Okay? And that was without any sort of genital touching. So there's some people that when you engage in phase one, again, this is a way for you to connect with that sensual side. And there's, your skin is such a nerve-rich area all over your body. So this is a very fun phase for couples, because you never know what it is that might turn you on, that might bring you to orgasm, that you never even knew. Because who really has ever taken the time to stroke up and down your inner thigh, or to stroke your calf, right? Or like massage your ankles? Who knows? How do you know if that's an erogenous zone to you or not? So again, instructions for this phase. So you want to make sure that before the session starts, that you're going to decide who's going to go first. You want to make sure that you're going to take turns. You're, again, concentrating on touching the parts of the body that are normally visible: the hands, the feet, the scalp, the face, the arms, things like that. When you're ready, you want to include back, neck, arms, butt, legs, not neglecting hands and feet and face, all right? Finally, bring in the chest, stomach, shoulders, thighs, but avoid breasts, top of legs, and the growing area. Okay? Again, non-genital sensate focus. That's your phase 1. Now, as we go on into phase 2, and a reminder, you might stay in phase 1 for several sessions. All right, if you decide in your couple you're going to do it 2 weeks, maybe you stay in phase 1 for a month, meaning you're doing it 8 different times. Okay? Maybe you're onto something. Maybe you're really just finding pleasure in this relaxation and this state of mind of mindfulness, and again focusing on the pleasure, that feeling of taking orgasm, taking sex off the table, and just being able to connect with one another on just a different type of intimate level. All right, so again, you only move on when both of you feel that you're ready. So phase 2, as we mentioned, we're now moving into the genital sensate focus. So you've spent that time on the non-genital sensate focus, so you can now bring in touching of the breasts and genital areas. Again, with this stage, you might want to spend some time. You might want to spend a couple sessions, a couple weeks, a couple months on this session before moving on to the next. All right? Continue to pay attention to those parts of the body, that you explored in the previous sessions, right? We're not going to take those things off the table completely. In phase 2 rather, we're essentially adding in those genital areas for the touch. Okay, so now you're incorporating those new areas. So the main focus of these stages is to increase each person's pleasure and awareness of each other's response and different types of stimulation. So this is really, again, a way for your partner to be able to visibly see what your turn-ons and turn-offs are, and same of you for them. And if one or both of you become aroused this time, it is fine. But again, that is not the aim of this exercise. During this genital stimulation sensate focus part, you might want to incorporate some lubricants. You might want to incorporate some bedroom accessories. All right. You might want to include some extra gadgets, if you will, new textures, new sort of fun toys and things. I also forgot to mention that it might be useful to incorporate a blindfold in any of these stages. When you take away the sense of sight, it's helping your body feel different sensations in a higher level than you would have your eyes been open. Okay, so consider that, grabbing a blindfold if you don't already have one. All right, again, sexual intercourse and penetration not permitted in this phase. Okay? If orgasm happens, it happens, but again, that is not the point. The point is to focus on the pleasure, focus on knowing what your partner's responses are and how they respond to positive stimulation. All right. So first, incorporate touching of the breasts and the nipples. And remember, men have nipples too. All right. So that's a very nerve-rich area. Next, you can include the areas around the genitals, including the testicles of a man. Then you're going to introduce your touching of the genitals. So the labia, the clitoris, the entrance to the vagina on a woman, the penis, the shaft, the glands on a man. All right. All right, after a while, you may also want to incorporate some oral as well as manual touching, like kissing and licking and sucking, into both non-genital and genital touching. You may want to try some teasing techniques, manually stimulating the person's genitals gently at first and then increase that speed of stimulation. Take a rest for a few minutes and then begin again. If orgasm occurs at this or later stages, again, it is fine. No shame, no guilt, no resentment around that. However, remembering this is not the aim of the process. You are aiming to focus on pleasure. You are aiming to discover how your partner responds to the different touches and stimulations. All right. And our final phase, penetrative sensate focus. Okay, remember taking the time, really making sure that you're both communicating throughout this process of what's feeling good throughout. Do each phase a few times. Don't make this a one and done. Don't be like my couples that came in the next week and they're like, okay, we're done, bye, right? Give yourself that time to connect with each other. This is a great, great exercise for those busy couples that are listening too, that just feel like they don't have time to connect with one another. They're always on the go, 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 putting everybody's needs before their own. They don't have time to sit down. They're not making the time to sit down and connect with each other. This can be a great, great tool for you guys to engage in. All right. So phase 3, that penetrative sensate focus. All right, so now you're in the last and final phase here. So you've already spent time on that non-genital and genital sensate focus. And so now you can begin to include the penetration using your fingers, toys, and or the penis. Okay, so in that second phase, again, you're rubbing around those things, but not actually having any sort of penetration. And of course, you still want to incorporate and can pay attention to those other parts of the body that we explored in the previous phases. But with session 3, the person being penetrated should really, really, really be in control of the depth and the penetration and the amount of time that's spent on it. While orgasm and intercourse is permitted in this phase, it's still not the goal. The aim of this exercise as a whole, sensate focus as a whole, still aims to remain focusing on the enjoyment of the touch and growing that intimacy between you. All right. So your instructions for here. First, begin to incorporate those different forms of gentle penetration. Initially, try this with little or no thrusting. Just enjoy the sensation of containment, all right? That feeling of fullness inside, whether, again, it be a toy, a finger, a penis, okay? Try it first with one person on top, and then switch and allow the other person to be on top. Later, you can incorporate more of that thrusting, and again, with the person that's being penetrated, they are the person that's in full control. You may also find some books on sexual positions that might be useful at this time. Maybe you're wanting to try some new things. Maybe you're trying to find different positions that are more comfortable and pleasurable for you. So allow yourself and your couple to spend some time in this phase as well. Again, I know that this is the third and final phase, and I know typically when we think of sex, when we think of orgasm, penetration is occurring, but that's not always the case. And even with this, even in this phase, just because penetration is occurring does not necessarily mean that orgasm has to happen or should be happening. Again, if you're looking at this in a way that you're focusing on the pleasure, the sensations, the mindfulness, the reactions of your partner, your own body's reaction to touch and sensation, that is the key to this practice. So I really, really hope that you enjoyed this episode. Again, this is something that I worked a lot in my therapy practice with couples, and this podcast episode is just a really good overview of it. But I want to remind you that things like this, things like Sensate Focus, things like the offering of the masterclass and the want, will, won't list, figuring out your pleasures, figuring out how to communicate with your partner, those are all things that I'm able to offer in my one-on-one coaching or possibly in upcoming programs that I have coming out. So make sure that you're subscribed at rachelmain.com, so anytime I have something new roll out, you're on the email list and you get notified right away. Until next time, leave a rating and a review for this podcast if you enjoyed it. Share it on the social media, tag a friend, send it to a friend. Sharing is caring. And as always, I love to hear from y'all on what it was that you liked from each episode. So tag me on social media. I'm on Instagram at @therachelmain, and I hope you enjoyed. Go on and get your sensate focus on. Love you guys. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you loved it, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a thing. And if you loved it so fucking much, be sure to leave a 5-star review. I'll see you next week, and until then, keep owning your sexual self.